name is Cheryl Pederzoli. I am a marketing expert working with Practice Mojo and ProSites. Today I'm going to talk to you about how you can build a communication that works and go through a lot of tips on how do you build that plan. We're going to talk about why you need a plan, how to build that plan, tips to keep you going, and then some of the benefits of automation if that's something that you're considering. So the major goal of any communication or marketing plan is to attract potential patients, convert them to become your patients, and then engage them so you can retain them as long as possible. Think about where you spend most of your time today, and I'll be curious to see if it changes when we get to the end of the presentation. So if you're like most practices, most of your time and most of your budget is probably spent on attracting patients. I've actually only encountered a small number of dental practices that say they have all the patients they need, but this is where a lot of people spend most of their energy. Some of the common tactics you might be using are having a strong website, trying to make sure you place well on search engines, office signage outside both on your building and then at the street, newspaper ads or direct mail advertising. These are most of your common marketing activities. What we find is on average, dental offices actually spend $500 per month on their marketing only. And we did a study last year, and this is actually the results that we found. The second goal for most practices is figuring out how to get them to become your patient, converting them. This is one of the most critical steps and one of the hardest ones to nail down, simply because you spend so much money on advertising. If one thing goes wrong when they try to talk to you, when they visit your website, you can completely lose them. So it's really important to spend a lot of time thinking through this process and understanding where you might have some deficiencies. Some of the common tactics people use is making sure that you have every answer somebody could be looking for on the website. Make sure you have your office hours, bios of your dentists. Make sure you have directions and address information easily found. Even having all of the different procedures that you offer so people know right away if you're the right match for them. Making sure that you have somebody who can answer the phone. When they answer the phone, they have a nice warm greeting, they're engaging. Somebody wants to come to your practice because they feel very invited in. You can also have references that people are able to go and talk to, which will actually help convert those patients because they've got that reinforcement. Same with reviews, it's the same idea. They get that positive reinforcement about your practice, so they're most likely to convert into a patient. And we also find a lot of people use social media because it's a great way to let your personality come through so that patient understands a little bit more about your practice before they decide they're going to become your patient. If you're not sure about how important those reviews really are, 88% of all shoppers are incorporating reviews into their decision. That's even more important in healthcare where the relationship between the patient and the dentist is critical in order to make sure that's a satisfied patient. So it's a huge stat on how important those reviews are. The last goal is retaining those patients. That's trying to keep people as long as you possibly can. And what's really important about this is that it's easily managed with some modern tools, and it's going to have the most profound impact on your practice. The things that you do to help retain patients, appointment reminders, recall for recare, even sending out birthday or holiday messages, or having newsletters that help keep them engaged with you. It's 5 to 10 times cheaper to keep a current patient than acquire a new one. And that's just a stat that's going to help reinforce how important it is to spend on making sure that you retain patients, because it's going to mean you can spend less on marketing and trying to acquire new ones if you can keep them. And here's just one more stat for you. There is a production opportunity of $241,000 if a practice just brings in all of their existing active patients for the number of hygiene visits they're supposed to have each year. This is a study that Henry Schein had done back in 2015, and it just goes to show that even without doing any work about bringing in new patients, most practices have a huge opportunity just by making sure people show up when they're supposed to. So next, let's talk about how are you going to build that communications plan that you need. So, looks easy, right? We've got 5 quick steps. You have to define what your goals are, think about all the different channels that you have, understand what your resources are, both financial and your human resources. How much time does your staff have to work on these things? Prioritize those different activities and then execute. So let's talk a little bit more. So start by defining your goals. When you're looking at those goals, the common ones I mentioned up front were attracting patients, converting them to become your patients, and then retaining them. You may have other goals. Really depends on your practice and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. Second, we talked about what are the different channels that you can use. So the channels that I'll go through here are the most commonly used ones for people. I'll talk about what they're good for, the benefits and the drawbacks, and then give you a couple of tips. So when we're talking about phone calls and voicemail, those types of things are best used for those two-way conversations. Phone calls used for conversations that involve HIPAA-regulated information. And it's also great for appointment reminders and inviting people back and letting them know they're due for another visit. Everybody's been using these for years, so you're all pretty familiar with them. Gives you that opportunity to do that warm touch. You can also have that two-way dialogue with people and be able to understand why they don't want to come in, ask them questions about it, see if you can understand if there's any underlying problems. Some of the drawbacks are that they are very, very time and labor intensive. And a lot of the time your staff is calling during that person's working hours. They may not answer the phone and be able to give you that verbal, yes, I'll be there, or no, I need to reschedule. So that's kind of the drawback of doing just your traditional phone calls. Now, our tip for you, though, is if you're able to set appointment reminders using an automated system, you can schedule those for after hours when the patient's more likely to be able to answer and confirm that appointment. The next channel I want to talk about are text messages. Now, this is really just becoming a big deal, and we're starting to see a lot more people using text messaging as a way to confirm appointments with people. They're best used for just letting people know, hey, your appointment's tomorrow, don't forget, or your appointment's in a couple of hours, make sure you're here. Even, a week before, sending out a confirmation saying, hey, we've got your schedule, click 1 to confirm that you're still available. The benefits, they're short. They're easy. People are so used to seeing text messages nowadays. And patients can simply just reply yes to confirm an appointment. There are some systems also that allow for two-way messaging. So if somebody does have a question, they can actually reply back, and somebody in your office can get an alert to jump in the system and have that two-way dialogue. The drawbacks, depending on the system, you may actually have to spend money for each text. And not all the phone numbers that a patient provides are mobile phones. So sometimes you won't actually be able to get that message through. One step to keep in mind when you're thinking about text messaging is that studies are showing that 90% of all U.S. adults have mobile phones. So if you're concerned that the patients that you're talking to don't have a mobile phone, most likely they do. Our tip on text messaging is only ask people to confirm appointments via text. If they have to reschedule, have them call you. You don't really want to get too involved in a text message back and forth 5 or 6 times trying to get that availability. Sometimes it's easier to get on the phone. So the next channel I wanted to talk about is emails. Now these are really best sent for marketing type of messages, things that are very, that don't have sensitive information in them. So appointment reminders, fine, newsletters, birthday greetings, marketing your practice, that type of stuff. Benefits, you can put all kinds of things in there. You can put links to your website. You can put a link in asking people to go and review you or visit your Facebook page. You can have a lot more information in it. The drawbacks, though, typically you're not going to get as many people opening them just because people get so many emails nowadays. So your message might get lost. It's also not going to be the best way to get to somebody if you have an urgent message, something that you need them to see right away. So one of our tips is a great way to use email is after somebody visits your office, send them a thank you for visiting. It was great to see you. And then ask them, if you've had a great experience today, can you please leave us a review on Yelp or our Facebook page or any one of those areas where you like to collect the reviews for your practice. The next channel I want to talk about is direct mail. Now, direct mail is not used as much as it used to be. So things stand out a lot more, which makes them still very effective. It's great for retaining patients, sending out messages, reminding them of appointments, asking them to call up and make an appointment, or if you have announcements, maybe you're in a new location or you have an insurance that you didn't have previously. The benefits, they catch attention. Like I said, people just aren't using direct mail as much as they used to, so things stand out more. We find that dentists are getting a huge ROI, especially when they send out postcards that are reminding people that they need to come into the office. The other great thing about a direct mail piece is it has staying power. You know, an email or a text message, they look at it and then it gets lost in the shuffle. But a direct mail piece can be stuck on a refrigerator, put on a counter, brought in and put it somewhere where the person's going to remember it. The drawback, there are some costs associated with it, a little bit more costly than some of the electronic formats. Difficult to track the engagement. But the tip that we have for you is send postcards to patients who haven't responded to any reminder texts or emails. And that's really just making sure that you're reaching out to people in multiple methods and trying to find the one that works best for people. So the next channel I want to talk about is social media. Social media has really grown significantly over the years. And right now, social media is used by 69% of all adults in the U.S. So it's a good channel to make sure that you have a presence on. It's great for marketing your practice, engaging with your patients. A lot of social media sites have, you know, these two-way dialogues where somebody can leave a comment and you can leave a comment back on them. So it's great for that kind of thing. You do collect reviews on some of them, specifically Facebook. So it's a great way for you to see what people are saying about you and respond to it. And you can collect information by putting up polls or surveys and things like that. The benefits, it's a source that people are on all the time. So they're always using social media. You can show off all those reviews. You can build trust. You can show your personality, but it can get time consuming. And you need to understand how the different channels work and if that is an opportunity to really reach out with your patients. And it does require frequent attention. One of the things that we tell everybody is make sure you respond to all reviews that you get, because everybody who's going to be a potential patient is going to go look at those reviews. And they're going to want to see that not only are you addressing them, but you're actually paying attention and you're thanking people and you're excited to be able to interact with your patients. So that's our tip for you. Now, the good, the bad, the ugly. The good news is there's a lot of things that work. The challenge is not everything works for everybody. And of course, that's the same if you think about your personal life. You know, if you've got news to share with one person, you're going to do it via phone call. Somebody else, you might have to text message them to get them to respond. And another group, you know, like my colleagues, I've got to email them. That's the only way I'm going to get them to respond. So you need to incorporate all of those different methods into your own communications plan. So let's talk about how do you lay it out and think through the communication cycle itself. So on the left-hand side, you see a kind of a high-level communications plan about attracting patients. So this is how I recommend everybody addresses it. Lay out the different plans, the process that they're going to go through, and then think about what you need to support each part. So we'll start with the patient searches for a dentist in your town. So what you need to do to support that is make sure your website has the keywords that are going to match what they're searching on. You want to make sure that your website has your town, your information on it so they can find it. If there's a certain procedure that you want to highlight, maybe it's tooth whitening, you want to make sure that you have that in your website so that if somebody searches on it, it gets indexed and you show on those display results. You're also going to want to make sure that you're taking care of getting all of your business listings out there. So that would be like on Google. If you search, you actually can see that map view, and when you click on the location, you get a whole little description of who this is, what's their office hours, all those different details. So that's another thing that you want to make as part of your communication plan to support this. Then the patient's going to hopefully see your listing, click over to your website. So you want to make sure on your website you have all the information they're going to be looking for. All of your basic contact information, but all those other things that I've mentioned, such as what procedures you do and information about your doctor, things like that. They might look you up on Facebook or look you up on one of the health review sites or Yelp or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you also have a plan around that and keeping those pieces updated. Finally, the patient likes everything they've seen. You haven't turned them off. There's clear information for them to understand, so they give you a call. So we move into the convert phase. So the receptionist answers them with a warm greeting and has availability. Receptionist is going to take that information, including the mobile phone and the email, because we're going to use that information. An appointment reminder is sent 1 week ahead via email and a robotic call. So part of your communications plan is going to be, what does that appointment reminder read? How does it actually go through? And what does that robotic call say? because you need to have that all as a solid plan. Your appointment reminder goes out 24 hours via text. Again, your communication plan includes what does that text say. Your patient comes in, maybe you want to have some supporting material. If it's a new patient, maybe you want to have a new patient welcome packet that you can hand to them that has information about the practice. And then think about after they come in, should you be sending them something afterwards? An email the next day that says, thank you for coming, it was great to meet you. Here's some information about us. If you had a great time, we'd love to hear. Go visit our Facebook page and post up a review or something like that. So that's kind of a way to think about your plan. Think about every step somebody goes through, what communications do you need to support it, and build your plan based on that. Now this plan is kind of showing you a little bit more about retaining a patient. What types of things can you do to really engage them, keep them connected to your practice so that they're going to want to keep coming back because they feel like you're part of a plan, you're a partner with them. So we talk about the patient starts in the practice management system. They're getting some automated communication because all their information's in there. They'll get an email thanking them for visiting and requesting a review a day after their appointment. Then maybe a month later, they get an e-newsletter that has tips in there and information about the office. Your patient gets newsletters often enough that they don't unsubscribe and they aren't annoyed, but it helps them to feel connected. And then they'll get a text or an email or a postcard encouraging them to make another appointment. And then a week later, maybe they hadn't actually responded to any of those, so they need a phone call. So maybe that's the next thing that goes, and they talk about it. And then they go through the cycle over and over again. So same as the last one, think about all the different steps that you want to have to outreach to your patients, and then what do you need to support those. The next thing you have to do, though, is think about what are the resources, what's the timing, how do you prioritize all of this? Financially, some of these items are going to have a cost. Some of them are just going to be time intensive. So you need to understand what's available in your office. This is just a really rough little layout that I did of some of the different opportunities, what the costs are, what the timing might be on these different things. Take a serious look at what you can afford to do, what you have the time to do, and then prioritize based on that. So, some general tips for you guys. So, first one is have a personality. What I always think about is pick somebody in your office that exudes that personality that you want all of your patients to feel. It's going to be somebody who's engaging, somebody who everybody comes in and smiles when they see. You're going to want to have a consistent tone throughout everything that you do. So on social media, you sound the same as if you were sending an email out to somebody or a newsletter. And that same type of personality coming through on the phone when they call. It just makes it important because it helps to build that relationship. It gives you brand consistency. It's part of building your brand as a dentist in the community. You want to make sure it's authentic. You don't want to be fake. You don't want to look like you're forcing anything. You really just want to make sure it's something people understand and they relate to. The next tip for everybody is make sure you keep as much information online as you can and make it easy to find. Your website is kind of your cornerstone. Your website's kind of your virtual office. That's where everybody can get information about you when they're just surfing the web. So you want to make sure it's got information that's easy to see, easy to find quickly, have your contact information, have all of your call to actions, which are click me, call me, all of those action verbs so people know what you want them to do. Having educational content about all the different procedures you do is also great, not only because potential patients can understand what it is that they're looking at, but it's great for search engine optimization. And that's the ability for search engines to review your website and understand what you're really about. And then when somebody searches on those type of topics, you actually show up in the listing. So the more content you have on the website, the better it is for search engine optimization, as long as that content's matching what people are looking for. Make sure you give them information about how to get in touch with you. And if your website reflects badly, people are going to think that's how your office runs. If the information's incomplete, if they can't find the details they want, they're going to actually take that and they're going to think that's how your practice runs. So it's important to make sure you've got this nice and consistent. Next tip is aim for two-way communication whenever you can. You can't just send a message and hope somebody not only heard it, but interpreted it the way that you want it to. So when you're trying to confirm an appointment with people, make sure you keep following up and you hear back from them. Yes, I can make the appointment. Don't just assume that they got the message and they're going with it. If they don't want to schedule an appointment, ask them why. Is there something that you can do or something that you can change? Finally, make sure you let people know what you want them to do next. I mean, that's the way that the two-way communication is going to work. So if you send them a text message, say, to confirm, type this and send it back. If you send an email, do you want them to click through a link? Well, tell them that. If you want them to make a phone call, tell them that. Let them know what it is that you're expecting them to do so that you can complete that two-way communication cycle. One of the other things that we recommend is automating patient communications when you can. About 60% of dentists are already using automated appointment systems. The systems themselves do vary. There's lots of different things and different options out there. What we do, of course, is recommend that you have a system that'll use multiple channels because that gives you the opportunity to reach somebody in the place that's best for them. So as I showed you up front, only a percentage of people want text messages and are going to respond. A percentage of people want phone calls. So doing a multi-channel approach on an automated system makes it easy because you kind of set it and the system just does it. You don't have to sit there every day and say, oh, send out these 10 text messages and make these 5 phone calls. The system's already going to do this. And this is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of money. It also gives your practice a very modern view. People look at you and think that you're a contemporary practice, which is also really great. Okay. Not the last tip, almost last tip. Use social media as part of your marketing strategy and your communication strategy. 80% of dentists that we find are using some form of social media, and we've done some studies on this. Most of them are using Facebook. Facebook is a great avenue. Patients are all on it. There's a lot of different things you can do with it. You can actually post up information about your practice. You can put pictures up about what your practice is doing. One of the coolest things that we see that people do with Facebook is when they have patients in the office, especially kids and things like that, they'll actually take a picture of the patient, put them up on Facebook, and allow the patients to tag themselves within the picture. It's a great way to make sure that your name as a dentist is being shared out with lots of people. So we highly encourage having a Facebook page if there's no other social media channel you're going to use. A lot of people are also on Google+. A lot of dentists are registering on LinkedIn, and a small percentage are using Twitter. Twitter is not really great for kind of long-term relationship building unless somebody's always on there watching it. So Facebook's the social media channel we recommend the most, but we're also seeing a lot more people starting to use Instagram and channels like that. We do find that there is an increase in production when doctors start using social media, so it just kind of goes to show how important it is. They have a higher practice revenue than those who aren't using social media. So just a couple of stats for you if you're considering it for your practice. So last tip for you, always be careful with your HIPAA-sensitive information. And everybody goes through the training within the office, so you guys already are very much aware of this. But as you think through all of your different communication channels, it's really easy to accidentally share information that you're not supposed to. Make sure that you treat it the same way you would treat anything else. If you're on Facebook, you know that you shouldn't be sharing anything. If somebody asks a question that you think might kind of go into that ground, simply reply back and say, I'd love to talk to you about that. Please call the office. So you make sure that you close the loop. People online see you close the loop because they see all those communications, but they see also that you know that you're not supposed to engage in any of that classified information. There are options, especially with email, where you can start to use encrypted email or patient communication portals. So that is one opportunity where you might be able to do a little electronic, but we do request that for the most part, or we recommend that you use phone calls or live meetings with people if you're going to be talking about anything that could potentially be covered by HIPAA. So just really quick, a little bit about automation. Automation is really having a system that interacts with your practice management system to reach those patients automatically to do the scheduling, remind them of upcoming appointments, sending out newsletters, all sorts of things like that. Practice Mojo is our marketing automation solution. Some of the benefits that people see: the no-shows decrease significantly after setting up automated appointment reminders, especially because these allow you to go out there in the multiple channels. So that answers that issue where somebody maybe doesn't check their voicemails, and so they didn't hear their confirmation, but you also sent them a text message. They may see it on the text message. This gives you lots of different options and really helps to reduce those no-shows. Also reduces staff time. You've got consistent messages and your staff doesn't have to call. We see that on average, Practice Mojo customers send about 1,500 communications a month, and it saves them almost a week's worth of work. That's your staff time that you've now freed up from retaining customers that you can actually reallocate to something else, like attracting new customers. The other great thing is it runs all the time. And when I said earlier that one of the downsides of phone calls is that your phone calls are being sent during work hours and people aren't answering the phone at that point, the automation, you can actually set those to go later at night when people are available to answer the call, read the text, reply back. So there's a lot of benefit. And what we find is that you're able to reach 100% of your patients because you do have multiple channels available. So I'm going to open it up for question and answer. I'm going to ask everybody, if you have an opportunity, I'm putting out a poll. I'm just wondering if anybody wants some information, wants some follow-up about automating the recalls or reminders, getting a new practice website, or maybe interested in online marketing services. We do have the opportunity now to do some question and answers. So as I had said before, within that GoToWebinar window, you should be able to see a spot where you can actually type in a question. And I will sit here just looking to see if we have any questions coming in here. So if you see the button for the questions, click on that. It should open a window, type in your question, and you can hit send. We are getting tight on time, so if I'm not able to get to your question, I will have somebody get back to you afterwards. Okay, so I do have one question here. Somebody is asking, when I was going through the channels, why is website not listed as a channel? The reason website's not listed as a channel is because it's really the hub. It's where a lot of your channels are going to point you to, and it's not something that you can outreach and touch somebody. People need to come to your website, so that's why I didn't list it. But it is the most critical, or one of the most critical parts of your communication plan, because everything is going to point back to your website. If you do a newspaper ad, you're going to want to put your URL in there so that people come to get more information. When you send out emails, that's one place that you're going to link back. Your Facebook page or your Twitter page is going to have those links back. So that's why it's not a channel, but it's still one of the more critical things as part of your communications plan. Let's see here. Okay. I do see one question. I'm going to have to get back to that person afterwards. I just want to have somebody who's an expert on that particular subject get back to you. So I'm not ignoring your question. I will just get back to you later. I think that is all I can see right now. So we're about the 30-minute mark, which I had promised that's where we were going to end. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Let me just close this poll. We will, again, as I said earlier, we'll send out this presentation to everybody tomorrow so that you do have the information. If you think of any questions that you want to have answered later, feel free to take that email, reply back to it, and we'll get that, and we'll get somebody on the phone to answer any questions, or they'll send back the reply. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I hope everybody has a great day.